Well, everyone, I've just arrived in the city of Claremore, Oklahoma. Well, how do I say this? I kind of grew up here in this town. Well, let's put it this way, and I'll go by grades because I can't remember my age, but I spent third grade, the start of third grade, and finished 8th grade living in this town. I haven't been here in 50 years. It's kind of crazy seeing it today because it looks pretty much the same. And I used to ride my bike all over this town back then. You know, back then kids rode bikes, and we would leave the house, get on our bikes, and a lot of times parents wouldn't even see you again till the day was almost over. Wow, what a blast from the past for me. It's really early in the morning. Another shot of downtown. I'm just gonna walk a bit, relive the memories, because I used to ride my bike and walk these streets 50 years ago. I don't remember this mural though. I don't think it was here. Now, Claremore got some pretty cool history, facts about it. It was named after an Osage Indian chief. Now, I did not know that, even though I lived here. That surprised me. Do you know the famous play, and of course the movie as well, Oklahoma? Oklahoma, where the wind goes blowing. Anyway, that was set right here in this town. Pretty cool, huh? Will Rogers is from here. They claim him as being born here, but he wasn't. He was born down the road a short distance, and I'm going to go there afterwards. But he grew up here, and as a young lad, he would roam these streets. Very popular person. At the time, he was maybe the most well-known celebrity, definitely in the U.S., maybe even the world. There's talk about him running for president, and he would have won. He loved aviation. He loved airplanes. And sadly, that's what killed him. He and Wiley Post, yet another super famous person at the time. Wiley Post was the first person to fly solo around the world. Anyway, he and Wiley Post boarded a plane in Alaska, and it crashed, killing both of them. Patti Page, some of you who are older know who I'm talking about. Country music, pop music superstar, sold over 100 million records in her time. The Madonna or Whitney Houston of her time. She was born and raised here as well. Wow, I can see a train in the distance. Well, let me show you a map so you can see where I'm at here in Oklahoma. And population history, look at this. 2020, peak population, 19,580 people. This town is growing. Look at the 1970 population, 9,084. That's about the time I was here. Yeah, so the town was less than half the size it is now. Anyway, this downtown is quite beautiful. I didn't appreciate it as a kid. I do now. Entire downtown is on the National Register. And this is not a abandoned downtown. I know it seems like it right now because it's early in the morning, about 7 a.m., but you can see all the storefronts and shops everywhere. Anyway, Claremore is also on Route 66. Yeah, that's right, Route 66. It runs right up here where this light is. But I'm just looking at this sign thinking, I want it. I want it for the man cave. I almost walked by this I just happened to see it. This is Will Rogers right here. A statue of him. The sculpture is called All I Know Is What I Read in the Papers. Of course, it shows him reading the Claremore daily paper. Pretty awesome, huh? This is the street that I grew up on. The house that I lived in is one of these houses. I'm not going to say which one. I don't want to unnecessarily bring attention to whoever lives there now. Yeah, much of my childhood, riding my bike up and down this street. 50 years ago. It's crazy how the time goes by. I've spent many a time on these railroad tracks right here, waiting for the train to go by. I still love trains to this day. All right, I am just out of downtown. Let's check out some neighborhoods here. Median age of this town is 35. That's pretty young, huh? Wow. Let me get up to this stop sign, and then I'm gonna throw the numbers at you real quick. 64% of this town is white, 17% is Native American, 8% Hispanic, 2% black, 1% Asian, rest is mixed race or other. Looks real nice, doesn't it? A lot of this area of the town looks just like this. I don't remember it being this nice here. I guess it's, you know, when you live in a place you don't appreciate it as much sometimes. Being to some of the small towns that I've been to, yeah, I appreciate this place much more. Here's some more numbers. Median household income, $58,685 a year. That's $11.30 a week. Poverty, 12.1 overall. 17 and under, 14%. 65 and older, 11%. Cost of living's a 90. Look at the state of Oklahoma, it's an 88. Cost of living in the state of Oklahoma is low. Anyway, everything's in the 90s there, except housing, which is a 78. Crime, last year, 19 incidents per 1,000. USA is 21. So crime here is a little bit lower. And, well, I've got one more number to give you. That's the median home value, $188,700. Well, all right. I think I'm done here. Let's head to the next town. And it is another town I spent a lot of time in. All right, everyone, I am in Oologah, Oklahoma. This is the actual birthplace of Will Rogers. And I've got a statue of him here in the little town square. You can see he's got a rope in his hand. That's one of the things he was really famous for. He was a master with a rope. And that's how he would entertain people. It's a very small little downtown. Post office over there. Now, I didn't live here, but I spent a lot of time here because of the lake. Oologah Lake is about a mile, maybe 2 miles from here. And it is a big draw locally for camping and boating. And when I was a kid, we had this little, it's a crappy little boat, but it was a boat. So we would come out here for the weekends and camp and get out on the boat. And you know what? It was a lot of fun. So I've got some really fond memories of this town. Yeah, here's one of the camping areas on the lake. And they would always have a restroom that you could use. Yeah, so we would come out, pitch a tent. So we didn't have an RV like some of these people do. And go out on the lake, like I just showed you. That's where I learned how to swim. We would go out in the lake, and my brothers and sisters and I, we would just jump off the front of the boat. And we all became very strong swimmers because of it. Alright, well, I'm in residential Oologah. Let me show you a map. And population history, peak population 2020, 1193. Yeah, this town is growing. I've been driving around it, you know, for a couple minutes, and it doesn't feel that big. It feels like a town of about 300 people, not almost 1,200. But you can see it is real nice. This would be a pretty nice place to retire if you're, well, if you want to, you know, fish your retirement years, because it's close to the lake, a couple miles away. Tulsa is about a half-hour away if you need a hospital or groceries, or they actually have a small grocery store here. Everything you need. But it is a really quiet, peaceful little town that looks like this everywhere. Real nice. Median age is 40, and well, I'll give you some numbers. 69% white, 17% Native American, 2% Hispanic, 1% Asian, rest mixed race or other. So that is the ethnic breakdown. Here's the incomes. $79,886 a year, $1,536 a week. That's not bad money, is it? Especially with the cost of living of 92, so it's 8% lower than the rest of the U.S. And poverty, 9.4 overall. School-age children, 12%, 65 and older, 4%. So poverty is lower than it is in the rest of the country. Yeah, it's just a nice, quiet little lake town. And you could probably get a pretty nice little house here. Crime, 11 incidents per 1,000 people last year. That's half of what it is in the U.S. The U.S. is 21. So you got low crime on top of all that. And let me give you one more. Median home value, $191,700. All right, so the next town I'm going to show you, that is where, for me, well, my life began. Yeah, looking forward to seeing it. As I'm making my way to the next town, I ran across this. I always like seeing these. This is a Cowboy church. Cowboy Country Fellowship. Yeah, that is a thing. And I've actually been to a couple of the services. They have these in rural Texas as well. But it's just like it sounds. It's church, but usually like in a barn. The church is a barn. You can see it right up here. That's it. So they have services in there, and preacher will have a cowboy hat on, and yeah, it's really cool. They actually keep horses on the church grounds, and on the day of the services, you know, the minister and some of the ushers, they'll come out on horses and direct people to park, and it's really cool. If you are ever able to attend one of these in your lifetime, I highly recommend it. It is totally worth it. This is Nowata, Oklahoma. The town was founded on agriculture, and then in 1889 the railroad came to town. The railroad stop here was interesting in that Native Americans that were forced off their lands and forced to Indian Territory, which is Oklahoma, they were put on trains, and the train stop here is where they would get off. And this is where they would begin life in Indian Territory. And of course, spread out from here. They had a mini oil boom in the early 1900s. And that dried up. And now the town is just a, well, it's just a quiet little small town. Agriculture is still the top industry now. There's the post office. Let me show you a map. And population history, peak was in 1980. There were 4,270. That was the population. And last census, it was down to 3,517. Yeah, so I'm gonna head into residential. Yeah, I spent the earliest years of my life here. I was born in Tulsa, but my family actually lived in, my parents actually lived here in Nowata. And there wasn't a hospital here. So when it came time for me to be born, you know, they hopped in a car and headed to Tulsa, which is about, I don't know, 30 miles away. And I was born, and then, you know, back then when a woman had a baby, it wasn't a big deal. The baby came out and she went home the next day, and that's basically what happened. So day 2 of my life up through 2nd grade, the summer after, was spent here in this little town. I grew up, well, when we lived here, we lived on a little plot of land, and in a mobile home. Well, we called it a trailer. Some people don't like it called trailers, but we called it a trailer. And my parents' best friends, they lived in a trailer next to us, and it had a little creek running through it. And they had a kid, a son, same age as me. He was named Paul, exact same age as me. So we were best friends, and we would go to the creek and catch crawdads and put them in jars. You know, very fond memories. And there was a QT on the other side of the little creek in a little wild area there. And we would raid our parents' cars for pennies, maybe get a nickel here and there, and go to that QT and leave with bags of candy. Because you could get like 6 pieces of candy back then for a penny. It's crazy, huh? Yeah, the first time I ever saw a naked woman was then. My friend Paul's mother, well, I went over to his trailer to get him so we could go play, and I just walked in. And when I walked in, she was, you know, doing something in the living room, walking by, and she was, well, she was naked, not a stitch of clothing on. I remember her shrieking and running back into the bedroom, and I can remember it vividly to this day. You know, she was an attractive woman. She had white skin, porcelain white skin, and long wavy black hair that went down to the top of her butt. But anyway, yeah, you know, of course I was 5 years old at the time. I didn't think anything of it. Oh yeah, there's a naked lady. That was about it. But of course I got a good talking to from my parents about just walking into their house. But anyway, yeah, that is one of my earliest memories, and it was right here in this town. Yeah, so I've driven all around the town and I can't find that spot where we lived. It's probably long gone because this was over 50 years ago. But I do remember the town looking like this. I would ride my bike all over town. Anyway, it's exactly the way I remembered it. You know, just lots of green everywhere and narrow streets. All right, so median age is 38. Here's the ethnic breakdown. 64% white, 15% Native American, 5% Hispanic, 3% black, 1% Asian, rest mixed race or other. Let's do numbers. Median household income, $47,776 a year. It's $920 a week. Poverty, kind of high. 25.5 overall. 17 and under, 29. 65 and older, 13. Cost of living's in 82, with housing the lowest at 48. All right, crime last year, 20 incidents per 1,000 people. That's a shade lower than the U.S. crime rate of 21. And, well, one more. Median home value, $89,900. I am in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Wow, look at this little skyline. This is a really small city, so I'm looking at this skyline thinking it punches way above its weight. And the town has a genuine architectural treasure. Of course, we're going to take a look at it. Should be able to see it. There it is, right there. We'll get a closer look at that building in a minute. Anyway, driving into downtown. Well, let's give you a little bit of history. It was founded by a guy named James Bartle. He owned a grist mill that produced flour here, and the town grew around that. Oil was discovered early 1900s, and an oil boom commenced, and it was during this time that Phillips 66 was founded here. And corporate headquarters were here. They're still here to this day, even though I think their main headquarters are in Houston now, but they still maintain a presence here. Anyway, this is where my uncle and aunt lived, so I would be here quite often as a young man. And they had a daughter, my cousin. She was the same age as me, and we were real close. And so we would spend a lot of time in this, especially in the summers, together, either here or back at our place in Claremore. that building again. I'm trying to swing around to it. Yeah, so anyway, continuing the story, something happened between them, her parents and my parents, and after the age of 9 or 10, I never saw them or her again. They were just cut off. Of course, you know, I'm young, they're not going to tell me what happened. I still don't know to this day. So anyway, this is the Price building. This is the only skyscraper designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. And, well, obviously, this is an architectural masterpiece designed by the master himself. And it's really amazing that it is here in the small city of Bartlesville, Oklahoma. All right, I am about a block out of downtown, residential. And it's a really beautiful small city. Why don't I show you a map real quick? And then population history, 37,920 last census. Peak population. Yeah, this town is growing. Yet another small Oklahoma city. It's doing quite well. Just going to show you a little bit of the neighborhood here, right outside of downtown. Here's the ethnic breakdown. 71% white, 7% Hispanic, 6% Native American, 3% black, 2% Asian, rest mixed race or other. Yeah, it looks real nice, doesn't it? All right, let's do the main numbers. Median household income, $58,869 a year. It's $11.30 a week. Poverty, 17.2 overall. 17 and under, 24%. 65 and older, 9%. Cost of living's in 89. You can see everything there is in the 90s. Housing's the lowest at 73. Yeah, I'm just cruising through the streets, and it's pretty much what it looks like everywhere. Crime here last year, 25 incidents per 1,000 people. A little bit higher than the U.S. of 21. See an occasional abandoned house. All right, and let me give you the last number. Median home value, $167,200. Yeah, so. All right, so this is Skiatook, Oklahoma. I'm making my way through downtown. This town began as an Indian trading post. Yeah, not European or white settlers. Native Americans had a trading post here. Skiatook is Cherokee for Big Indian Me. Let me show you a map real quick, see where I'm at. And then population history, last census, peak population, yet another growing Oklahoma town. All right, I am one street into residential, right off the main street. The town, by the 1900s, the main industry was agriculture, and it is still that to this day. It is also a hub for, for recreation. There's a huge lake, Skiatook Lake, nearby, and so people supply themselves here to go camping and boating, water skiing, you name it, they do it all. This lake. That is one of the major industries of this town as well. It's a nice park, isn't it? City park. When I was a kid, I would come here for a couple times a year. Why? Because this is where my grandparents lived. So my parents would unload us kids with my grandparents, and yeah, we'd spend a couple weeks here, ride my bike around town. It's a pretty nice place. Seems like it still is. Median age here is 37. Oh, look at that old house. It looks like it's 150 years old, doesn't it? Yeah, median age here, again, 37. 72% of the town is white, 12% Native American, 6% Hispanic, remaining mixed race or other. Why don't I start giving you some numbers. Median household income, $57,480 a year. That's $11.05 a week. Poverty 13.4. School-aged children 16%, 65 and older 18%. Cost of living's an 89. And you can see housing's the lowest at 74. Looks really peaceful, doesn't it? I bet this is a good place for kids to grow up. Crime is low. Last year, 14 incidents per 1,000 people. Compares to 21 for the U.S. Median home value, $182,600. So that was a pretty cool trip down memory lane for me. I haven't been to any of these places for 50 years. So it was quite a thing to see them after such a long time. Some of them look the same. Some of them look a little different. But yeah, this was a really cool trip for me. Anyway, going to head down south, still in the state of Oklahoma. Going to check out some towns along the Red River. Of course, the Red River is what makes the border between Oklahoma and Texas. And then, of course, after that, we're heading down back into our hometown in Texas. So, that's coming up next Saturday. So I will see you then.